Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. We are here today at Charlie's Collectible Show, their Lorcana 10K. We're here in round 6 looking at NOIMNOT, aka Kindle, versus Luca. I'm one of your announcers, SirAshtown. Joined with me today is Hal. How's it going, Hal?
Been a great day so far. A lot of fun here today at Charlie's Collectible Show. This is going to be a fun match. We've got NOIMNOT and Luca, which we've both seen today already on camera, playing Ruby Amethyst. This is kind of like the master versus the young Padawan. But, I mean, don't get it twisted. Luca has made some amazing plays on camera today. He's been playing his Ruby Amethyst list very tight, very well. Closing out some matches 2-0, not even close against his opponents today. And honestly, from both players, I think they're on pretty similar lists. They're both on the 3-cost Maleficent Sorcerer. I wouldn't be surprised if they're just on pretty close to the exact same 60. It potentially, maybe they may work together on stuff. So they could be just a 60 card mirror altogether. So we'll get into this and yeah, let's see how it goes. So far today, what's been your favorite deck that we've had on camera?
Goodness, there's been so many. A couple that stand out to me are Talisman Purple. That one just with the Ruby Amber locations, that one was so unique. Love the just in time. But my favorite one so far has been Brett's Sapphire Amber list, the aggro. That list was just so unique to see him playing these. I mean, the Floodborn, you have Stitch into Rockstar Stitch, you had the Windies, you had the Auroras. I mean, it was just such a unique concept. I love seeing it. What about you? What was your favorite deck so far, Hal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the Talisman Purple list is just so cool. It's definitely something I'm gonna go home and put together and work on myself. It just looks like a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I've been saying like this entire set, locations are just a big weak spot in the format right now, and until today I haven't really seen anybody utilizing enough of them. Jim Hawkins definitely just a powerhouse, and just in time, not a card I was going to see in set, coming out of the set 4 meta. Don't forget about those chapter 1 cards that you haven't seen played since chapter 1. I mean, we had Emerald Amber on camera with Tupaloop on that the Bucky Diablo list with the in green yellow, featuring Be Our Guest, which is just another card we really haven't seen play since set 1. So every time a new set comes out, I do look at the new set, but then once I kind of take note of what the powerful cards are in that new set, I go back and look at all the cards that have already been released in Lorcana and see, because normally people just take the best cards in the new set and try to plug and play them into already existing strategies, cards that people are already popularly playing. They don't think to go back and like, how can I innovate this? And maybe some other cards that just kind of unlock some of those other cards that don't really see play anymore.
That was so true. And thinking about one of the cards that stood out to me a lot that I had heard people write off pretty early was the blue 4-drop Uninkable Sisu. That was a card when I saw it in that Sapphire Amber deck. I was like, oh my goodness, this card makes sense. Like, this is a card that I hadn't seen in so long, and now here it is being played on a competitive stage. Just really neat to see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I have never seen that legendary Sapphire Sisu in a competitive deck, and it kind of just filled a lot of different roles in that aggro list that we saw. I mean, we saw he had some underlying hero synergies with the Annas whenever she quests. All of your other heroes that are in play get 1+ lore in that Sisu to be a hero too. So now it's questing for an additional lore. You get to develop your brain basically every time you quest with it. And so it seemed like it kind of did a lot in that deck. So it was really, really cool and neat to see. So let's see. Now we're watching NOIMNOT versus Luca in the Ruby Amethyst mirror, and they both have some really, really strong starts. Luca has got the kind of the dream scenario. You've got the Flame Frenemy followed by that Sisu. And NOIMNOT, looks like he just inked his Frenemy. So that card does get a little worse as the turns go on. It's really something you want to slam on turn 2 and past that, especially in the mirror. It does tend to get a little weaker, but not a bad start from NOIMNOT's side either. We've got a Snake, a Maleficent Sorcerer, and a Rabbit. So just so far, all of his cards that he's played have just pretty much replaced themselves. But let's see if Luca's going to get some value out of this Frenemy and this Sisu.
And gosh, what two different styles of openings that you can see from Ruby Amethyst that we're seeing on display right here on camera for us. I mean, we get to see that really cool Flynn into Sisu package, and like you were commenting on NOIMNOT's board, really this like bounce draw type of package to try to gain advantage may serve him pretty well here into the mid to late game. But here's Luca with his own rabbit, also gaining resources and trying to draw up.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see. Now we did see Luca play the mirror earlier in, I believe it was round one today, and it's just kind of this grind fest of keeping your hand full of options, full of cards. You want to try to gain incremental lore here and there wherever you can. Queen's Castle is a very powerful card in the matchup, but Ruby Amethyst does have a lot of answers to answer opposing Queen's Castle, so it's really picking and choosing your spots to safely try to land one of those castles and be able to protect it. Potentially drawing you extra cards, gaining you the incremental lore that you're looking for. But we've seen NOIMNOT with a brawl on the frenemy. So he's like, I can't let you keep that. Just keep running amok and gaining that 3 free lore a turn, especially in the mirror, is just way too much. Because this match almost always goes long, and a lot of the times it ends up who can get to that 15, 16 lore, and you get to that goat range and bouncing it and replaying it to close it out. So both of them are keeping parity on the board with characters, ink, and lore. Luca's doubling down. He's going to go another Sisu and another frenemy. Free to quest with one of those, and let's see what NOIMNOT has an answer for.
Wow, talk about you have a good strategy here to gain you some extra lore for free. These Sisus are really serving as good lore gain.
Yeah, Cisu's really funny in the mirror because the goal in the mirror is to keep card parity and keep tons and tons of cards in your hand and keep inking and get up to those powerful, 7 drops and keeping your options open. But that means opposing Sisus are just going to be super threatening, especially if you don't have your own to combat that trigger off of the Flynn. But we'll see. It looks like NOIMNOT's playing to the board. Snake going to go into Rabbit. I do believe it's important to get those Rabbits out of play whenever you can, because you don't want those just free questing for one, bouncing back. It's kind of the early and mid game strategy. You bounce and replay your rabbits until you get to that end game of replaying your goats. And so keeping that rabbit off the battlefield to hopefully at some point run your opponent out of cards. We see Luca's got another rabbit in his hand already.
Yeah, exactly like you're saying. Using that rabbit to try to hopefully get you into the late game, utilizing it by bouncing, drawing more cards, until you can get into something a lot bigger that you can play multiples of.
Yeah, NOIMNOT. Goes with a fox. Takes out one of the Sisus. Both players just full grip of cards, lots of options. Replaying that Maleficent Sorceress. I'm really curious to see what both of these players decided to cut from the list that we kind of saw do well in Chicago. There's running none of these sorcerers, but I think I've seen from either one of these players at least 2 of these Maleficents, if not up to 3. I'd be interested to see what they thought was worth cutting over that card. But I mean, if you're going for this just consistent early game plan of getting things in play and keeping your hand full, just what they shaved down on, maybe whether it be Maui's or Be Prepared or Madame Medusa, maybe they're not playing the full 4 brawls anymore. And a card that I really thought I would see more out of Ruby Amethyst this weekend is that new Peter Pan Shadow from set 4. It's a 3-cost non-inkable 2/3 with Evasive and Rush. Now, unlike its counterpart, it only quests for 1, but it does cost 1 less. And it's got that kind of the flip side of the ability of the Peter Pan Shadow from the previous sets, but your other characters with Evasive gain Rush as opposed to the other part. But the more important part is this comes out on turn 3 to take out opposing Diablos. But funny enough, in the mirror, it's not that good. It really doesn't do a whole lot, and it's not inkable, so it just kind of gets stuck in your hand. And there's not really any free trades you're going to get out of it in the mirror because everything's got such high attacks, high willpower. So I wonder if they tested it out and they're just like, well, it's just not good enough. They went a different route to hopefully dealing with those Diablos. So if they're not running that, I would be shocked to see if they cut down on brawls to fit those Maleficents in. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if these 2 players have decided the Maleficent Sorcerer is worth a slot in the deck, I'm nobody to question it.
No, I thought the same thing. I thought with Ruby Amethyst, I thought we would be seeing this Peter Pan package as something to deal with Diablos. Because right now, Diablo is in green still running rampant, and it gains you so much advantage if it's not answered, taken care of. And to not see Peter Pan in NOIMNOT's or Luca's list, maybe an indicator that they have found something that they think is more viable.
Yeah, and it is possible that they are playing and we just haven't seen it if it's just a one or two of. But I feel like, especially the games we've seen from Luca, we've seen him draw like over half his deck, and we just haven't seen a peek at one. So maybe not. Maybe they just decided it's not good enough. And just kind of the rock paper scissors feel of this format is Green Steel Bucky Diablo is the boogeyman of the format, and then Ruby Amethyst got gained in popularity to beat these decks that may or may not thought they beat the Emerald Steel Bucky list. And they just kind of preyed on those being a more aggressive version, especially against these Sapphire Steel decks and these Sapphire Ruby decks. But from what I've heard from a lot of the top players is the Emerald Steel Bucky matchup is kind of bad from the Ruby Amethyst list. So I would, be curious if they had other tools, or maybe they just switched up their game plan or their thought process for the matchup, and that's helped. But yeah, really interesting to see what cards these players decide to put in their list for this weekend.
Oh, and look at these two players just going back and forth. Kendall been piloting this for a long time, into set 3, 4 now, and just bouncing back and forth the rabbits, using that bounce package that you see in Amethyst. Luca following suit, doing the same thing, having gained quite a bit of lore that we saw early on from that Flynn Sisu line. We'll see what Luca can find going into here.
Yep, and it looks like he did just go ahead and go with the Be Prepared. Both rabbits from both sides are going to get to replace themselves. Luca went ahead and quested, and Luca is ahead. I was going to say, we're still kind of keeping parity on ink, cards in hand, and the board state. Now, Kendall had a few more characters in play, but Luca's up to 13 lore. We're getting really, really close to that critical mass of lore that he's looking for, and then the Be Prepared just reset the board. In my past experience, though, the one that has to play the Be Prepared a lot of the times ends up falling behind. And you see here, NOIMNOT follows up with a rabbit and a goat, so putting up to 9. Let's see what Luca can respond with.
And interestingly enough, I know that Kindle's, okay, no, I'm not. His Be Prepareds are signed. Just noticed that Luca's are signed too. Both these players committed to the Ruby Amethyst lines.
If I know anything about Ruby Amethyst players, they love Ruby Amethyst, and they have yet to have to switch decks. And I saw a couple of those Be King Undisputeds in Luca's hand. He decides to fire one off there. Let's get the board cleaned back up once again. And speaking of Ruby Amethyst players, one of my buddies back home in DFW, you may have heard of him, is Capu or Alberto. Top rated both of the challenges, and that man has been playing Ruby Amethyst since set 1. I have seen him try a couple different decks just between chapter 1 and now chapter 4, and anytime he tries to play something else, he's just like, I can't do it. What am I doing? Well, I'm not drawing enough cards. I'm not pressuring my opponent enough. This is not good. I gotta just go back to Ruby Amethyst. And hey, when you stick with it, apparently it works. I mean, no, I'm not. We've seen his track record on the deck, winning and placing high, a lot of finishes. Alberto, same thing. Like, stick with it. Ruby Amethyst players love Ruby Amethyst. They don't want to do anything else, and you can't hate them for it.
As someone pointed out in the chat, these rabbits getting bounced back and forth may have regretted not killing it, because NOIMNOT is using rabbits to full potential here. We saw the fox here bounce that rabbit, drawing NOIMNOT another card.
Yeah, and just opting to play this Friends of the Other Side, just hard cast, not even worried about seeing it, just keeping that hand full. Can't run out of cards. You run out of cards, you're going to lose the mirror. And Luca's still got 3 more lore on NOIMNOT, and that could be the deciding factor. It's who can keep gaining lore incrementally in little bits over time every turn until they're able to finish that, kind of put that combo together and close it out.
I'm very impressed too, because Luca is doing a great job. We saw him earlier on in the tournament on the feature match, and he played a very tight match then. But he is also playing a tight match now against a very seasoned Ruby Amethyst player.
Yeah, and you notice it's like they keep drawing so many cards every turn, like they don't miss an ink. Like you'd think like, oh, the most expensive card in their deck is Be Prepared. It's like once you get to 7, you could probably stop and you just want to play all your cards. No, you draw so many cards that your basically the plan is to never have enough ink to play out your entire hand. So they just keep inking so that way they can play like big plays, or they want to get to that like Madame Medusa, bounce it with Snake, and then replay it all in the same turn. You know, it's like you get to it's worth it getting to 8, 9, 10 mana just so you can play multiple cards in the same turn to try to get that edge that you need.
That and making double plays in a turn can be incredibly relevant when you can play a rabbit because you need to have more draw, bouncing it back to hand in the same turn, and then replaying it. There's lots of ways that having a ton of ink in these Ruby Amethyst decks on the board allows you to make really optimal plays that get you ahead of the game.
Yeah, so no, I'm not. Opts to go with the Fox into that Chernobog's followers. Let's go ahead and get that off the board. Plays a rabbit. Once again, who knows? That might be the same rabbit we've seen 6 times. Could be a different rabbit. Who could tell? See what Luca can do here. He could just quest out with both of these characters and go to 15, but opts to sing a Friends of the Other Side with that Maleficent Sorcerer. Same story. Full grip of cards. What are you going to do? I would say if you're looking to get into Ruby Amethyst too, you got to stay on your toes about playing your turns quickly too, because you're going to have a lot of options, a lot of different lines to consider. You're going to draw a lot of cards, and it's something in Lorcana especially you don't want to go to time. Both of these players doing a great job of playing their turns very quickly, considering they have 8+ cards every turn to look at their hand and figure out how to spin their ink.
That's a really good point, because I remember back when Lorcana first started in set 1, we saw a lot of Ruby Amethyst control, be it a totally different deck with having different like Magic Mirror and different cards in it. Players go to time, and not knowing the lines as sharply as you can, or having the thought process laid out on the field, can be kind of hard. So getting into Ruby Amethyst, great deck. Takes time to learn it though, learning the optimal lines, committing to them. We see Luca here doing it, and NOIMNOT, of course, making these lines great.
Yeah. Well, Legacy, sorry, I was just about to bring up set 1 Ruby Amethyst, and the only reason is because I was going to say, if you want a history lesson, go back and look at set 1 Ruby Amethyst. That was before all of this bounce shenanigans and nonsense came out. But if you want to see what a real control deck looks like in Lorcana, I don't think there's been anything close compared to what that Ruby Amethyst deck was from set 1. It was so grindy. Yeah, like you said, Magic Mirror and Big Elsa. And the Queen just exerts a 5-drop that exerts to draw 1 card. Can you imagine? We have a rabbit that costs 4 that draws like 2 at least. Like worst case scenario draws 2. We were playing a 5-drop that exerted to draw 1. Just nonsense. Even Ruby Sapphire is probably the most controlling deck in the format right now. Nothing compared to the control deck that the Ruby Amethyst deck was from set 1.
That's something that's been great about Lorcana though, being here from the beginning, really getting to see the game evolve. And set 4, no different. Really a great change to the game that we've seen. Some powerful cards, maybe a little bit of power creep, I think a lot of people would say, but great changes to the game that we get to see so many different variances in deck. And today's stream is a great example of that. We've seen a lot of decks that we didn't see at the challenges in the top that we're seeing here today, and it's just wonderful to see it.
Yeah, I remember when set 2 first came out, we were just kind of messing around. We're like, is Ruby Amethyst still the best deck? Like, I don't know. It's like, oh, let's try out, we'll try some, I don't know if like Merlin's Fox and like Rabbit's like good enough, and like Goat's kind of whatever. Oh man, I remember like the first game I played against the deck, I was like, well, I'm going to be playing this, so this is pretty disgusting. We see NOIMNOT is slowly but surely creeping back up in the lore race. Luca not quite at that terminal velocity of lore, but really close at 14. But NOIMNOT has kind of gained control of the board. So unless Luca has another reset with another Be Prepared, it's getting pretty scary. Especially you're staring down that frenemy Flynn. You either need to put something with more power than 4, and then or just have an answer for the Flynn. I guess he does currently still have his own Madame Medusa, but that's if he just, does he want to do absolutely nothing with it? You could quest with it, go to 15. You could trade it with a Fox. Trading with a Fox seems a little scary, honestly, because you really do not want that Flint on the other side to trigger for the 3 free lore. Yeah, it looked like Luca just doing some mental math here. That's something I do a lot of my games too. And my opponent just like stare at me like I'm a crazy person. I was like, hey, sometimes I just gotta talk it out. Like talk to myself, talk it out. You know, it's may not be the optimal line. We can't hear the players. I don't know what he's saying, but like sometimes I'll just be like, okay, you know, they could have this, and then you know they quest for 4, and they go, you know, it's okay. It's all right to look crazy sometimes. It's lonely at the top. If you want to be a champion, sometimes you got to be a crazy person.
Well, I also think against NOIMNOT, you need to take some of that time, because if you give him a little bit of space, he's going to go all the way.
No joke. And here we go. Luca's decided it is time. Let's quest for 1. Let's get the goat in play. Let's Fox. Let's put it back in my hand. We are getting really close to threatening lethal. This is what we were talking about. You set up. This is the setup you're looking for this entire game is don't lose control on the card draw. Don't lose control on the board. I don't know if NOIMNOT has got enough control of the board, and he was behind on the lore race. And oh man, Luca's still got 4 left. Decided to just fire off a B King Undisputed for the full 4 ink cost. It's going to take out NOIMNOT. It's already damaged Fox, but he's got 3 lore value in play. The frenemy is not going to trigger the free lore, but I mean, he's got a grip full of cards. What can he get out of this? Is if Luca has another bounce effect for the goat, it's pretty much all but over, because he can pay 4 for goat. He's still got 3 for either a snake or a fox, and I see the fox in his hand. I think Luca's got this one straight up in his hand already.
I believe Luca was on the play for this first game. That will be relevant as we're going here in a best of 3 game set. Today we have over 164 players here at today's tournament. Glad to be here today at Charlie's Collectible Show, their Lorcana 10K.
All right, so NOIMNOT's going to do what he can. He plays a rabbit, digs another card deeper. Fox is going to trade with the Madame Medusa. But what he doesn't know is that Luca has just got the win in his hand, waiting in the wings. And this is the point where, now, not to be, it's not a brag play.
I hear what you're saying.
But sometimes I just put the bounce effect in the goat face up on the board and just be like, let's just save some time. Like, I know you literally cannot answer this. It's like I'm not trying to be abrasive or rude, but yes, it is. Okay, all right, there we go. It's not rude, I promise. It's you know, NOIMNOT still got like 1 million cards left in his hand. Let's save some time. We don't want to go to time. You know, I want to give you the opportunity to win the match. You're gonna have to win 2 more games now. Like, let's go ahead and get it going. No big deal.
Especially in a best of 3 when time is relevant, especially in the mirror of Ruby Amethyst. You're bouncing a lot. You're taking your turns. It's only cordial to show, hey, just so you know.
Yeah, and as speaking of time, and both of these players playing at a very reasonable pace. They're both experts of their deck. They're not taking extra time or wasting any time or anything. But our backup match is already done. So they have finished game 1, and then our backup match is already complete. It looks like we had a red-purple match, a red-purple Ruby Amethyst deck took out a Ruby Sapphire.
While they're doing that, I want to give a quick shout out to some of our sponsors here today at Charlie's Collectible Show. And we want to thank you, the viewers, for joining us here today at 20 Lore Pro. We're going to be live next weekend in Austin for Game Castle's Lorcana 1K. Be sure to tune in next Saturday for our Lorcana stream that we'll be doing in Austin, Texas. We're so thankful to be here today at Charlie's Collectible Show here in Stone Mountain, Georgia for their Lorcana 10K. Really, this place is such an amazing area to just check out. They're open Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. They feature anime, toys, comics, video games, TCGs, and more. It's like having a convention every weekend. I want to give a special thanks to Nexus for helping produce today's stream. Nexus is a gaming venue located in Waco, Texas. Nexus offers esports, TCG, and dining, and is an elite hangout for gamers to build your local gaming community. We want to give a shout out to Diamond Ink Apparel, who did the artwork for today's tournament for those mats that you see there on the table. They also did the artwork for the exclusive top 4 playmat that we're going to have on tomorrow's stream for you to see. It's a special prize that the players haven't even seen themselves yet, so we'll be sure to share that with you when we show it to the players. And lastly, we want to give a shout out to GFQ Underground, who printed that artwork onto those mats. GFQ Underground does printing of custom mats. If you're looking for someone to print a mat for you, head on over to GFQ Underground. We want to thank Hal Brady. Hal, thank you so much for joining us. You're here from Lorcana. Really appreciate you every time you come on and you're able to do interviews with us or to stream, and for making videos alongside us with 20 Lore Report.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Happy to be a part of the 20 Lore Pro family. And yeah, I've been loving this game. I played Magic competitively for 15 years, and I don't remember a time in Magic where I had as much fun as playing Lorcana. I definitely loved the game and loved competing, and it just felt like a more serious game overall. But man, this Lorcana is just so much fun. And if you've played other card games before, like not having to deal with like lands and stuff, and you get to build a 60 card deck full of cards that are all playable, I just love it. It makes deck building so much fun. Now, Diablo kind of restricts our deck building space these days, but that's okay. I'm not saying it needs to be banned, but I'm not going to be upset if it does one day, and I may be a part of the problem in getting it banned going forward. So we'll see what happens. So. All right, so we're in the middle of game 2. Luca took down game 1 in the Ruby Amethyst mirror match versus NOIMNOT. So NOIMNOT's on the play with the dream scenario. We've got Chernobox followers on 1, Frenemy on 2, and that Sisu on 3. Luca followed up pretty much with the same line so far. We're going into their turn 3, but he had the followers on 1, and it looks like he's quested with it here to banish it and draw an extra card. Maybe looking for a brawl to take out that opposing frenemy. Maybe to that
Sisu.
They do have their own Sisu to fire up. They're going to ink it because they're on the draw, so theirs is not going to be. Oh no, there would have potentially been. Oh no, it's the other way around. If you have more cards, their CC is bigger, so you're not going to be able to stop the opposing frenemy's 3 free lore ability. So instead, start digging for more answers for later turns. Plays that Maleficent Sorcerer, draw an extra card, throw it back to NOIMNOT, and he did gain the extra 3 lore, and let's see what he goes. I see a Queen's Castle. I mean, you could just be mean and just slam it. Luca's still 2 turns away from being able to get into the Maui range. They didn't go with the Sisu line, so they don't have a big attack character. They could potentially take it out with a Fox, but that might be so much of a tempo loss, having to bounce your own 2-drop or 3-drop. He may not care, but we'll see it. He could develop with a 4-drop instead of the castle, because I see a King Undisputed in his hand, and singing that is just so devastating, and that's the line we're going to go with. Go with a goat, get another lore, quest for 2. This is the start you want on the play. You want to get ahead on the board and just super ahead on the lore race. We see a 7-point deficit from Luca's side, and he's just continuing to dig for more answers. See if he can answer this.
I mean, already up to 8 lore when we're here on turn 4. That is just a really impressive showing here from this Ruby Amethyst list. And like you were saying, Hal, the Sisu Flynn, that is what you want to see. And
yep.
I'm not being ahead on the play, got him there. I mean, now Luca really having being the one to try to draw into as much as he can answers to try to get this board out.
And it's funny that both players actually had that exact opening line. They both had the followers on 1, Flynn on 2, Sisu on 3. But how even more disgusting is it that the one on the play has the better Sisu? Because the one on the draws is going to have that one more card in their hand. So your Sisu is turning on the Flynn, and it's just like, why does it have to benefit the one on the play even more? It's just, oh man, it's so backbreaking.
And we know that NOIMNOT here has the King Undisputed with the goat ready to sing it.
Yeah, and I think NOIMNOT's going to end up clearing his entire board. He brawls the rabbit, and then we'll see. Yep, gonna see. Yeah, I mean, and NOIMNOT's already at 11 lore too, and he's still got this full board. Even if Luca has a Maui, I mean, Maui would take out the Sisu. Well, Sisu or the goat. Probably the Sisu, and then the Maui at least turns off the frenemy for a turn, but then you're not really advancing your board. And no, I'm not at 12. I mean, I would be shocked if Luca can pull this one out. And I know we're really early, and we saw how fast or how grindy and long game 1 went, but if you noticed in game 1, we did not have this far of a lore deficit. So now all NOIMNOT needs to do is every turn add more to the board. Even if you're only getting one quest out of it, it doesn't matter. Something like Queen's Castle could be devastating too, because while you're fumbling around trying to deal with everything else, like, you're not going to be able to deal with the castle too. So this is probably not what Luca's wanting to see. He's got to play the frenemy, and I imagined, yep, it's just going to be fox food. And now you're only going to be able to answer one of these. And unfortunately, Goat and Sisu both kind of act as a 2 lore quester, and you don't have an answer for that opposing frenemy. So NOIMNOT's going to go to 15 just from the trigger, and then can quest for 2. He decides to take out the Flynn, and I actually think that's going to be the right decision, because that was going to get him 4 lore as opposed to just the 2 from the others. But NOIMNOT can still quest for 3. The Goat's still in play, so it's guaranteed at least 1 more. I think it's going to be too much. We're probably going to be seeing a game 3 here very shortly.
I think that was a very seasoned and smart answer from Luca, going after the Flynn, like you were saying, Hal, because I think my thought process was, let me take out these big guys because they're just going to cause so much of an issue. Luca, instead, really thinking about it, and says, what's going to keep him from getting as much lore as soon as possible? And Kindle here with a Queen's Castle.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying. It's like, now Queen's Castle's super devastating, because even if you just take out the Sisu with a whatever, the castle's probably not going to get fully answered this turn. That's going to put NOIMNOT to 17, which is just the danger zone, especially this early in the game. We're only on turn 6. Luca's only got 1 lore. It's going to, I mean, it would be really, really tough to come back on this one.
Another Flynn from Luca, followed by a King Undisputed, getting rid of that Sisu that was on Queen's Castle, able to keep Kindle from drawing an extra card.
Yeah, which is like the least of your worries right here anyway. And then, yeah, clears up the one character that Luca left had in play. Don't think he's going to be able to clear the castle, even if he has an answer for his followers. Yeah, and having to dig too deeper, this is, something NOIMNOT's really looking for. Tosses the hand. Here's what I got. NOIMNOT's, well, all right, if you're going to show me a bunch of free information, I'm going to take it. Let me take a look at it real quick. Let's see. All right, we'll get on to game 3. So such a big difference between game 1 and game 2. And it was just, NOIMNOT just kind of had the dream start on the play and had an answer for anything that Luca was trying to put in the way, and just got to 20 lore. So you can close the game out in the mirror very quickly, but I think you have to have a very specific set of cards to be able to do that, and also depending on what your opponent has.
And now we're heading here into game 3. We see here NOIMNOT really piloting his deck very quickly. And we saw game 1 went very long, going back and forth, but NOIMNOT sticking to that strategy, able to utilize Flynn and Sisu. Just an incredible comeback and just swift play. Excited to see how Luca takes being on the play here into game 3.
Yeah, I mean, the ball will now be in Luca's court, no pun intended, and we'll see if he gets to have the just the opening of the 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop. I made a Dallas basketball joke, and we're in Georgia, so my apologies. Big Dallas Mavericks fan.
Well, as we're getting ready for the last game here in round 6, I just want to give a quick shout out again to Charlie's Collectible Show here in Stone Mountain, Georgia, for hosting today's Lorcana 10K. We really appreciate them allowing us to come out and to stream today's tournament. If you haven't been to 20 Lore Pro's Discord, you should head on over to 20lore.pro/Discord, where you can find out the latest in competitive Lorcana, from deck list, deck techs, and all the discussions that we have over all of these set 4 competitive decks. 20 Lore Pro will also be live next weekend at Game Castle in Austin, Texas for their Lorcana 1K. Be sure to check us out next weekend over here on Twitch that weekend. We want to thank Nexus for helping produce today's tournament stream. Nexus is a gaming venue located in Waco, Texas. Nexus offers esports, TCG, and dining, and is an elite gaming hangout to build your local gaming community. We want to thank Diamond & Apparel, who, if you're looking at these playmats here on today's stream and you're really liking them, you can head on over to 20lorepro.com, where you can get yours today. Those were done by GFQ Underground and Diamond Ink Apparel. GFQ Underground is a custom playmat group. If you head on over to their Discord, GFQ Underground, they have all sorts of discussions over playmats and custom arts, and they're able to print those for you. Here's Luca taking us off into game 3 of round 6. Both players are 1-1. Luca leading us off here with a Chernobog's Followers.
In a little forecasting, Luca inked a frenemy on turn 1, so I'm gonna be shocked if he doesn't have one for turn 2, and he doesn't. So okay, so he's decided to go a different route for game 3 on the play. He actually decides to go with a snake instead of that line. You actually saw he inked the Sisu on turn 2, so he had the option to go turn 1, turn 2 frenemy, turn 3 Sisu, but decided that is not the route I want to take for game 3.
That's interesting. We saw NOIMNOT when he was not on the play against Luca during the first game take a very strong snake into Chernobog, into Rabbit's playline. We see Luca, who is here on the play now, opting not to do the Flynn Sisu package. Wonder what else is in his hand that may have helped to give him that decision-making ability to choose to go that route.
We see him just hard cast a friends on the other side. I'm thinking I can't see everything that is in Luca's hand, but one thing that would convince me to go this route is you might be light on inkables in his hand. So he decided to bounce back that 1-drop so that he can ink it. And because if his hand's full of non-inkables, I think I see like multiple rabbits, maybe a King Undisputed. I definitely saw a Be Prepared. He wants to make sure he can get to that 4th thing to get this rabbit down. So I think most of the time it is optimal to go for that aggressive line, but you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into just running out of inkables. So he's like, you know what, let's play it safe. Let's make sure I can get to that turn 4, turn 5, where I know that rabbits and the like are gonna draw me out of that, and I can keep playing this game. So because we saw Luca win game 1 without having to go crazy with that aggressive line and played a more grindy game, and that's perfectly fine. That can work. And you just want to make sure that you don't just run out of inkables and lose the game for no reason.
And here goes a King Undisputed from NOIMNOT, able to get rid of Luca's rabbit. We saw, especially in game 1, them recur rabbit all the time. Not able to do that anymore.
Yeah, so just to get the rabbit off the field, and we've also seen how powerful rabbit, like singing Be King Undisputed and then following up with another card in the same turn, is just really backbreaking in the mirror. It makes sense. Like Luca, NOIMNOT's like, oh, you know what? Let's just we've got our 1-drop. Let's just hard cast a Be King Undisputed and let's get that rabbit off the board. But Luca had another one.
That's something about these decks. I mean, when you have the cards, you have the cards because you're drawing so much. You can find what you need because it'll come up very quick.
Yeah, and both of these players seem very well seasoned in the mirror match. They know what it looks like as a road to victory. There's a couple different ways that you can arrive there. And yeah, I mean, they know what cards are important. Rabbit is super important. Keeping board control is super important. Keeping lots of cards in your hand. Not losing, letting the lore, the lore deficit getting too out of hand. So, I mean, I don't think every player would think to just hard cast for the full 4 ink cost a Be King Undisputed on an opposing rabbit. But, I mean, it makes sense. We've seen how devastating a sung Be King Undisputed is, especially in that early mid game where you just really take control of the board and you get to start freely gaining lore with your characters.
I think we saw a brawl. Yep, there goes a brawl right there for the Merlin Rabbit. Again, just like we're echoing here, getting rid of rabbits is very good.
So, I know, intuitively, if you're a newer player or you're not used to playing with or against Ruby Amethyst, you look at Rabbit and you're like, oh man, I really don't want to banish it because they're going to get to draw a card. Look, they're going to get to draw a card. It's going to happen, whether you banish it or they bounce it. If they bounce it, it's even worse. They're going to draw 2 more cards. And the only time that Rabbit is going to draw an extra card is if the game ends or somehow they shift on top of it, which there's no option in these current sets. So it's funny, we were talking about a new card that was spoiled from set 5. It's a Sapphire Shift Legendary Merlin. And we were talking, it's like, oh, what is the only way to not get value out of your Merlin Rabbit? Shift on top of it. So yeah, don't be afraid to banish your opposing rabbits. They're going to get to draw that extra card anyway. Just do it. Get it out of here before they bounce it. It's too much value. It's too much. So Luca has a pretty good board presence. He's got the Queen Castle and a Maleficent Sorceress. Didn't have enough ink to move the Maleficent over, but NOIMNOT does have the Maui to get the initial 6 damage, and at least we're getting 6. Now, literally anything else challenging in, continue that castle, and he decides to bounce the Maui with the snake. He's like, we're getting that castle off the board very soon. And you see the lure amount, it's not out of hand yet, but Luca's up by 4, and he gets to know, he gets to make decisions here based on, I know that my opponent has that Maui ready to go in his hand, and more rabbit.
I believe that's his 3rd rabbit. I think Kendall probably checking that too. Like, how many rabbits has he played so far? Wow, this is really just sometimes it's hard for me to know when to play those castles. Like you were saying right then, he wasn't able to play Maleficent Sorceress and move it to the castle immediately, which would have given it a lot of value. Left it available for a Maui from Kendall's side to come onto the board and just deal a ton of damage to it. Gaining 2 lore is great, but also finding that right time when you can do both on the same turn, very optimal.
And I like Luca's decision here. He almost went with the questable Maleficent on the castle. Decided, you know what? No, let's put the fresh one over there so that I split the decision on this snake and what it can do. The snake will have to choose to either challenge into my Maleficent or take out my castle. It's kind of a no-brainer. They're going to take out the castle. But he ended up... Oh, my gosh. All right, let's catch up. So no, I'm not decided. Snake goes into the castle and then plays a Be Prepared. Then Luca readies up, goes double castle into Chernobox followers. Now, we know that No, I'm Not still has that 1 Maui. We get 6 damage on one of them. Luca's only at 8 lore, so it's not too crazy yet. But these castles are gonna gain 4, and the followers potentially going up to 5, putting him at 13. And now we're getting really close. That'd be 10 more lore than No, I'm Not has, and it's gonna draw a card. We see that Be Prepared ready to go on Luca's hand. And if No, I'm Not doesn't have another rush character, these castles are going to end the game very quickly. We see a Frenemy, see a Bee King Undisputed, we see a Frenemy, 4 more lore from Luca. We're getting really close, going to 16.
You can see the rushness as they're playing. They're going through the lines. They see it coming.
They may be running out of time too. They don't want to go to time, but I think that's going to do it. I think the double castle, and that is it. Luca takes down No, I'm Not in the Ruby Amethyst mirror. This is a masterclass. Once we get this VOD on YouTube, I'm going to recommend every Ruby Amethyst player I know go watch this mirror match. This was such a good match. We saw the aggressive finish from No, I'm Not and to finish one out early, and then Luca, both games he won were kind of the mid to late game grindy matchups.
And we saw Luca choosing not to play the Flynn Sisu, even though he had it here in game 3, and that paid off. We saw it here where he continued to have the ink, continued to be able to play. It worked out for him here, getting him all the way to the win against a well-known great Ruby Amethyst player. No, I'm Not.
Well played on both sides, absolutely. Well, I think this match did run a little long, so we will see. We'll see if we have some time to do an interview for round 6. Otherwise, we will be back for round 7 of the Charlie's Collectible Show 10K tournament.
Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. We're here today at Charlie's Collectible Show's Lorcana 10K. We were just getting done watching No, I'm Not, known as Kindle, playing Luca in a mirror match with Ruby Amethyst. Luca, how did it feel to play against No, I'm Not and to beat him?
It felt really good. Those were really close games, especially being on the draw for game 1. Like, winning that match was just like crazy, and like obviously losing on the draw was tough. But I think Kendall's the best player in the game and also the best red purple player in the game. That's where I get my deck list from. I think he's just the best, and I'm really happy to beat him. It's sad to knock out a friend there, when I wish we could have played round 7 and 8 where we could have ID'd into top 8, but unfortunately that didn't happen and we had to play it out.
Yeah, now you're 6-0, is that right?
6-0.
Gosh.
My 2, so I have 2-0 to everyone but Kendall and another mirror match I played. Both very close games. My previous 2-1 was against the mirror, and it was just a very close game, as the mirrors are. He drew lots of goats. Unfortunately, didn't find his castles, and that bothered me.
So Hal and I were both commenting in that third game. We saw that you had inked a Flynn, and then you inked a 3-drop Sisu. You had chosen not to go with that line. What was your thought process behind that? Was it the ink not available, or you saw a better way to win the match?
So I didn't think that's what the match was about. Our game one, I won. Games one, I won the game off of Flynn plus Sisu, and off game two, he won the same thing. So I thought his thought process would have just been keep brawl, and I don't want to play into that. But also, my inkwell was constrained. Like I need to go play that on one, on two, I need to go snake, and then I'll have an ink for three. Luckily, I drew a friends on the other side, which I think is the best draw there outside of like Maleficent. Maleficent into friends would have been the best, I guess. But like friends, like kept me going so I could ink the next turn. But yeah.
Man, that's so amazing. And just like you're saying, watching out for that brawl, knowing the cards in your opponent's deck, playing around them, you know your constraints. Such an amazing player. You really knew your deck and you showed us the optimal lines for it. Going into the rest of the tournament, what are you looking forward most to playing or looking to dodge as you're going onward?
I would like to dodge green steel because I have not played it yet, and I think the matchup is very winnable. But your opponent has to be like the newest player ever, or draw very poorly. I'm hoping to play a lot of blue-red players. I think blue-red is my best matchup. Blue steel is like 50-50. I think there's a couple of those in top. I'm excited for the tournament tomorrow. Hopefully I get to play in that. Hopefully I just lose in top 8 and go get to play 2K.
Well, hey, Luca, we're wishing you good luck. You've been doing wonderful so far here in today's tournament. I hope you do well into tomorrow and you're able to make it in top 8 and fully get in. And like you're saying, we have the 2K tomorrow for y'all to watch over on Twitch. So hopefully you'll be playing that. Maybe we'll do a feature match with you there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank y'all for joining us here at 20 Lore Pro. We're going to be live here in just a little bit with the next round. Thank y'all for joining us, and we'll see y'all later.